Evening. This is Dan Stafford, your host of Midwestern Geek in Cali videocast and videocasting from 42 TARDIS Way here in lovely Temecula, California, summer's winter home. This evening I have a series of stories that I want to cover. I'm going to go over it fairly briefly, but I want to make sure that you get to see the screen because there's several screens related to one story, and I think it's better for you if you can see the screen as well with these stories I'm covering. As always, the show notes at www.midwesterngeekincali will contain links to all these stories, so you'll be able to follow up and read them in depth on your own. And the first three that I'm going to cover are all related to the same thing. This link is from NPR. The story is Get Ready for the Next Big Thing in NASA's Search for Earth's Twin. What they're talking about is a new planet hunting satellite called TESS, short for Transiting Exoplanet Survey Satellite. And it will spend 2 years scanning almost the entire sky to search for other planets around other stars. According to the article, scientists already know of over 3,000 planets around other stars due to a NASA mission called Kepler mostly that checked a small area of space to look for dimming of stars that meant a planet had passed in front of the star. And obviously that shows that planets around other stars are very common. So I will, of course, put this article up, but I want to move over to one on CNET.com that says the SpaceX launch of NASA's TESS Planet Hunter on Wednesday. And if you're looking to watch the launch, this is one option. Check this out. I would also recommend taking a look at spaceflightnow.com. And of course, we need to close down the CNET link because it has competing audio video there. So now, spaceflightnow.com is, I believe, a site from the UK, and it's one of my two favorite websites for looking at space news. This has a sister site called astronomynow.com, but Spaceflight Now is my favorite for looking up space news and following mission status. They have excellent coverage of mission status, and even if you can't afford to join with a membership, you might not be able to watch video necessarily, but you get outstanding textual updates. And as you can see, the website is very light very light on advertising, and this makes it easy to read and follow and very non-distractive. Now, the U.S. equivalent to this, or what I would consider my second favorite site to look for space news, is a website called space.com. And based in the U.S., given our highly capitalistic society, it is boatloaded with ads, pop-ups, pop-overs, pop-unders, pop sideways, pops around the world, and, well, you get the drift. In other words, it's noisy and distracting and jumping all over the place and full-on ADHD. But has stout coverage, lots of flash and panache, and it's a really good site for space news. And between the two of them, you'd be hard-pressed to not be able to keep up with what's going on in space exploration. So, again, space.com and spaceflightnow.com, and not in that order, actually. So Spaceflight Now has coverage, and this satellite is going off tomorrow at, I want to say, here it is, 6:51 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time is when it's scheduled for. and there should be good coverage. I would have both sites, the CNET site and the Spaceflight Now site, open and kind of pick the one that gives you the best coverage. So, and I'm going to leave that tab on Spaceflight Now open for right now because I need that to come back and get the link for the show notes. So that's one 3-article story, 3 related articles all on the same story. And I will put that stuff up in the show notes for you. The next story I want to cover is going to be on Elon Musk's loop. And the story is on a website on NBC News. And it's talking about Elon Musk's Hyperloop dream may come true and soon. Okay. Basically, what they're saying here is there are multiple agencies looking at testing and building Hyperloop transportation systems more in short runs. This isn't like a national scale network similar to the existing rail network in the United States. Not yet at this point. They're talking about, for instance, I think I wanted to say New York, DC to New York City. They're talking about possibly Chicago to Cleveland. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's one for Los Angeles to San Fran or something of that nature, or LA to San Diego coming up soon. You know, the typical really high volume commuting corridors in the U.S. are the ones that they're really talking about covering first. But if those pan out, that could easily turn into a U.S.-wide network over the next, say, 15, 20 years. And that could be a very good thing, because being able to get across the country at 700 miles per hour right now, I am not a fan of air travel in the United States. I really, really, really believe it has gotten to suck. You know, for me, I'm 6'6", 310 pounds. And I remember going on airplanes in the 70s, 80s, and even 90s, and it being fairly comfortable. You know, you had leg room, you got something to eat, you know, or at least something to drink. You know, I'm not a big fan of smoking on the planes, but you know, that's old school and that's gone. But all the fees, all the fares, all the hyped up security, you know, all the BS post 9/11. You know, to me, as far as air travel goes, the terrorists won. They won, because air travel has just gotten like you know, it's like being in a sardine can. If I fly coach on an airline at my size and the person in front of me leans their seat back, they're going to break my legs. And if I scream out loud because my legs have been broken, they'll have an air marshal hauling me off the flight, dragging me by my hair because I've got rubber broken legs. Nah, not for me. I won't go on an airplane anymore unless I'm flying over water. It's just not worth it anymore. I'll either drive or take Amtrak, as long as Amtrak's still around. And Hyperloop to me sounds like a much better version of U.S. passenger rail. I would love to see it come to pass. It would be much faster and probably much more comfortable. One would hope. One would hope they do not follow the airline model, let's just say. So that's another story. And of course, there will be a link in the show notes to that one. The next is, again, Farcebook, otherwise known as Facebook. And this is on How to Geek, and it's about how to remove Facebook from your life and why that's nearly impossible. How to delete your Facebook account and try to delete the data. And yeah, again, somebody is going to be getting your data anyway. You can't be in an online world and not have transparency in your life. you either have to be a total Luddite or you're going to have to give up some privacy. And to be honest, it's a good thing in the side of it that the big corporations and the governments around the world and everybody else is really going to have a tough time keeping their privacy too, as you can see from everything going on in the news. It doesn't matter how rich you are, you can't stay completely private unless you're an ancient dinosaur that doesn't use tech. And even that's difficult. Hello, drones coming down the pipeline. I just don't see privacy. It almost makes me wonder if life wouldn't be better with full-on transparency in a lot of ways. But if you want to try, here's the instructions, and I will put up a link in show notes, and you can go have at it. This is probably the best guide you're going to get through the bamboo forest trying to delete yourself from Facebook. I doubt anybody else is going to do a better job on it. So if you want to go that route, give it a check out. Don't just delete the account without going about deleting your data, because they'll still have all the data, if that's your concern. Just saying. All right. The next story up, this is also on How to Geek. Gmail will offer self-destructing emails. Yeah, there's some upgrades coming up for Gmail. And this is kind of cool because it's going to you're going to be able to do a bunch of new stuff, but the big one they're talking about here is being able to set your emails to expire. And after that, they go poof. If you're of a certain age, you remember a show called Mission Impossible, where they were handed a spy mission on a cassette tape. Remember those? Or have you ever seen one on the web? That after it was played, about 3 or 4 or 5 seconds later, after it was played, maybe a minute, it would start smoking and burn up in place, and you had to toss it real quick like a hot potato. Well, this email could be set up that way. Your mission, if you should choose to accept it, is to read this email before it expires. I hope all the spammers set theirs to expire. That would be really nice, but just saying. So there'll be a link to that in the show notes as well. And next one up, and this one is one of my favorites for the evening. Meet the do-it-yourself mechanics that are electrifying, retrofitting classic cars with electric motors. We're talking Porsches, Beetles, VW vans, Ferraris, a Jeep, I believe. This place is actually not too far from Temecula. It's in San Marcos, which is over in Southern California, and I'm going to want to go visit them. The place is called EV West, and let me double check myself. I believe it was San Marcos, they said. San Marcos, California, which is not too far from San Diego. It's a little south and west of here. It's kind of closer to the coast, not quite on the coast yet. We're not that far from the coast, but we have a small mountain range between us and the coast here. And I am definitely interested in this for a few years down the road. I'm still driving a gasoline-powered vehicle. There's one particular electric vehicle that I'm looking forward to that's not due to come out until 2022. That gives more time for chargers to be in place. But I'm interested in having my current pickup converted over to electric a few years from now. Not going to do it too soon. The truck has a lifetime powertrain warranty on it, so as long as I own that vehicle and everything, it's covered for the powertrain. If I did the electrification, obviously that's not going to be the case anymore, but it might be worth doing once the power charging network is growing a little more and my situation changes a little bit. But that is a really interesting story, and I encourage you to go read up on it. Especially, I think the retrofit market for electric cars is completely and utterly underserved. I think this is a wonderful idea. I think people love their classic cars, and being able to convert them to electric and something that actually has a functional range is going to be a very good thing, and possibly a very large secondary market for the automotive market when things are going much more electrical. So, one to consider. And on that note, it's time for me to say goodnight and happy Vulcan fingers to you from the Agent of 42. And thank you for listening.